So dominating the news remains the decision by President Cyril Ramaphosa to fire the DA's Deputy Minister of Trade and Industry, Andrew Whitfield, and the reasons for that. Now, we covered this already, but what does need further explanation is why don't they just end this government of national unity or the grand coalition between the ANC and the DA? What is the motives on either side? Let's unpack quickly what's going on. So, President Cyril Ramaphosa used a really thin reason to fire the DA's Deputy Minister of Andrew Whitfield. Really, really, really thin. This is a country in which people don't do their work, where our unemployment rate is through the roof, the education standard is poor, they go to the White House and tell the President of the United States that our crime is out of control, but nothing gets done about those ministers. But yet you fire a Deputy Minister of Trade and Industry, never a minister. We've got people that were mentioned in the Zondo Commission that are still in cabinet. So why do you suppose Cyril Ramaphosa chose to take this out on somebody like Andrew Whitfield? Well, it's because he's Andrew Whitfield. He is a fairly quiet, studious guy who has done his job. And he is not a big name in the political spectrum, although, someday in South Africa we're going to appreciate people that do their work, but not now. So it's a fairly sort of safe bet. You're not going to get a lot of pushback because he's not a high-profile politician. So he goes after Andrew Whitfield by saying this guy traveled overseas without the express permission of the president, which is part of the rules of cabinet. But the president himself never responded to the request that Whitfield had given him to travel. So in other words, you ask me a question, I don't really give you an answer, and then I fire you because you didn't get an answer from me. I mean, it's ridiculous. We understand that it's, if this was business, if this was a normal sort of employer-employee situation, we'd call it constructive dismissal. But why is the ANC and President Ramaphosa doing this? And why don't the DA leave the government of national unity? Well, the answers are as follows, not necessarily the best answers we ever want to hear, and that is that neither side wants to be seen to be the one that breaks up the government of national unity for two reasons. The reason number one, donors to both parties said to them, hey, you better go and form a government of national unity or coalition and work together and let's fix up the economy. Obviously, that's backfired spectacularly, but the donors are still going to withhold their money if this thing breaks up. So both parties are financially incentivized to stay in this government of national unity. So neither of them want to leave because the other one will say, well, we wanted it to carry on, but they left. Okay, so that is why both parties are waiting for the other one to act. Why does the ANC want to get rid of the DA? Well, it wants to get rid of the DA for two reasons. When the Democratic Alliance spoke of the doomsday coalition, when they were hinting towards the ANC, EFF, and MK, the real doomsday in that coalition is actually the ANC. They are the guys that are pushing these laws that we dislike so much. Expropriation Act, NHI, Bella, everything that holds the country back from development. These are ANC ideas. The ANC is far more radical than MK or EFF ever could be. And I'll explain to you why I say that. MK is just a traditionalist Zulu looting party. They want to go back to kind of like a version of IFP under Buthelezi together with the corruption of the ANC. That's what they want. They're not really about policy as such. I mean, for those that can recall what it was like living under President Jacob Zuma, it wasn't like the guy really stopped business or stopped anything. In fact, he understood business because he was stealing. So he needed business to carry on. So the MK is not against, ideologically, they couldn't give a damn about these other things because we know that because when Jacob Zuma was the president, he did none of this. EFF, well, that bunch of tub thumpers, they just make a lot of noise. They don't do anything. But what the EFF does do is it allows the ANC to steal. Just look at the cities of Johannesburg, Ekurhuleni, Tshwane, etc. Wherever they have governed together in coalition, money starts disappearing. Everybody blames the ANC, but it's the EFF that put them in power. We see that right now in the city of Johannesburg, right now in the city of Ekurhuleni. So the ANC, which is absolutely committed to corruption and theft, has a money problem. We understand it. We all know that's just the way it is. Really doesn't want a partner in their cabinet that is continually exposing crime and corruption. Okay, so just think of Johannesburg, and that is exactly what the ANC wants. They want the DA to walk away. They want all those other GNU parties to stay and the EFF to come in and make the shortfall. And the numbers match up, and it gets them just over the line. But as they've found out in Gauteng, you can rule with a minority party, with a minority government. It works. You know, because all the DA does is write strongly worded letters. Why won't the DA go? The DA won't walk away from this coalition because it's actually been politically quite good for them, in that it's shown the rest of the country that the DA is about good governance. I'm not a fan of this idea because we are not a country that responds to good governance, because I think that most of the voters know the difference between good and bad governance, and they've never really responded to it. So I think they're a little bit mistaken in this belief, but they're trying to show that DA ministers really do a good job. DA ministers really can improve lives, etc., etc. And to a degree they do it. Whether it'll get them more votes, I doubt it, but hey, you know, it is making them a lot more acceptable to South African voters, which is code for black South African voters, because they already have white votes, they already have Indian votes, but they want to become more acceptable to the middle class black voter. So they want to stay in the coalition and being seen to be the good guys that were hounded out by the people that want to perpetuate corruption. So what happens? Well, they know exactly, the ANC knows exactly how the DA is going to respond. Every time they are put to the test, they set another red line, which is a very bad tactic, because all the ANC does is purposefully walk over the red line. But in the meantime, this unhappy marriage is going to carry on forever. And neither side has got the guts or the incentive to end the coalition between the ANC and the DA. And this is turning into a snooze fest. So let's see what happens. Thank you for joining me. We'll see you again on the Political Insider.